What is going on, my homies? I got my boy Myles Murray, Epic Guntersville Guide, but we are not on Guntersville. We are actually in the hunt for big smallmouth. Hopefully, we are on oh God, bog escape. Bog, come here, dude. Hey, you're not supposed to be out, man. But we are on the hunt for epic smallmouth on Pickwick here. I got the new rig all ready to go, the blue bad boy. You can see we got a variety of rigs, everything from like glide baits to, check out this crazy thing, dude. It's like a buzz bait made love to a freaking underspin, and that came out, and then Neds, which is what I'm hoping and what I'm thinking we're gonna catch them all. But we're gonna get this boat in the water, hit that like and subscribe button. Let's go. Oh wow, I think it's smallmouth too. Nice, dude. There you go. Bob, can you get off my seats, dude? Can you please? Nice, dude. I don't know if that's a fish. Wow, giants, bro. I don't know if that's a fish. Oh dear. Yeah, he's a good one there. There it is. Yo, net is showing off, boys. A little better one. I knew they were on that edge, dude. That's a good one. Oh, we're good, dude. He's got him in. What you should probably do is just cast. Why don't you just cast? Dude, like, we're right on the shoal. It's pointing. If you point that active target, no. But point that active target forward before you go. Oh, that's a good one. And they're right on that tip of that deal. That's a nice one, gentlemen. That's a nice 3.5, 4 pounder. She got the hook that time. How about them apples, gentlemen? That's what we came here to find, right, boy? Oh, I bet. They eat that shit up. I don't know what that is. Oh, that's a. No, I'll just come over here. I'm on the other side. Oh shit! No. Oh God.
Yes. Living right. Oh God.
What the? Did you go in the? Is it really?
Yeah, it's a big smallmouth.
No. Oh, it is. Oh, it is.
You mean right?
Maybe. I didn't think he was that big. I thought he was like 2 pounds, dude. Oh, he ain't that big. Oh, he's too big. I don't know what's going on there. You big old red eye too. Nice. Yo, red eye. Maybe they're spawning in 7 feet of water.
Yeah.
Another one on the Nedster, gentlemen. How about them apples? So one of the most fun parts about fishing the dam is there's a bunch of boats around. Usually they're all like guides too, so it's kind of intense, like one-on-one fishing, but it's fun because you're fishing like little spaces. And me and Myles right here, we were fishing this little rock pile for quite a while. Myles missed one, and then I caught this guy. Oh, and we thought he was 2 pounds, and then he grew. It's one of the few fish that grew as it came back to the boat. Oh, come on, buddy. And he doesn't want to go back to his home, dude. All right, Bob, we can try to put him back in the room. Go back there. So cool. We're gonna get this thing released. So how about them apples? Back you go, dude. So today we fished a lot of like rock piles and a lot of hard bottom, and I'm with my buddy Myles Murray. He's a guide on Guntersville. If you guys ever want to take a trip out there or just want to get some info and that, hit him up on Instagram and that. But what I want to talk to him about, you guys have seen me fish a net a lot, and that's pretty much what we focused on today. But there's a lot of ways to fish this hard bottom, and Myles is really versatile with it. Fishes a lot of rivers, a lot of pea gravel, a lot of big boulders and that. So I wanted him to kind of give us some insights on some other ways or maybe nuances to how we approach some of these rock piles and fishing some of this hard bottom to catch more bass and maybe do something a little bit different than the angler right next to you.
Yeah, the key today was definitely changing our weight. Like the current had gotten really slack, and we started out, I was using a 6-ounce Titan tungsten Ned head, and I think Mikey, you were using a
it was a 3/16.
3/16.
Yep.
And I even went down to a 20th Ned head, and I believe Mikey got it dialed in with a 16th, and I was using a 3/32. But the most common mistake I see people use when fishing rocks without a moving bait is they use too heavy of a weight, and they stay hung the whole time, and it's inefficient. But
because the trick really is you want to take it, right?
Yes.
You want to almost hang it, but not hang it.
So when there's current, you don't want your bait blowing by, and you don't want it staying hung the whole time. You want it to where it's controlled drifting. But today we didn't have that kind of current, so we definitely had to lighten up. I mean, I went all the way down to a 20th to get bites, and that's one of the most common mistakes I see people make when they're dragging, is they use too heavy a weight.
That's one thing that Myles has really taught me, and it's sort of counterintuitive, but unless you're hanging up from time to time, you're not catching fish. Literally, you want your bait to be in contact with the bottom, but you try to find that nice little medium where it's in contact but not getting hung up all the time. And I know that sounds super like, oh yeah, be perfect all the time. But you're not gonna be perfect, but you really do want that contact, because that's what's really drawing those strikes. Those fish are relating to those rocks and those hard spots, and if your bait isn't making contact with that, one, you don't know if your bait's in the right place, and two, you're not hitting the stuff the fish is gonna react when it sees the bait. It's just like when you're crankbait fishing, you're gonna bounce that crankbait off of that stuff. You're doing the same thing with a Ned, Carolina rig, Texas rig, whatever you're using. Now, the other thing that we did this morning was fish a spinnerbait. You don't always have to be right on these rocks or right on that hard stuff, especially when there's slack current, there isn't that much water moving. You know, those fish will rise up and they'll be suspended, and you schooled me at it. So tell me a little bit about fishing a spinnerbait around some of this hard stuff.
So I always start out trying to run my spinnerbait into something, like you're just creating a reaction bite, but I noticed right away that they were pushing bait up. So I was trying to, as soon as it hit, to keep my blades turning, but slow enough to keep it above the rocks and fast enough to keep it up, is a good way for me to put it. So that was a major key, and we were throwing to anywhere we seen shad, and it wasn't just on the active target, it was visually you were seeing shad getting pushed up. So that was a big key, and that's what clued us in to stay above the rocks. But typically when there's heavier current, they stay behind it, but we had slack current today, so that's the reason for them suspending up. If we would have had heavy current, we would have been having to bulldog that, and a crankbait would have came into play, I think, in those areas we were catching them on a spinnerbait today.
So a couple of the things where I think guys make mistakes in that, and one of them actually me and Myles share in common, but what's really interesting is we do them for two completely different reasons. So we're fishing a lot of spinning rods, Neds, you can do the same thing with a drop shot too, and we're gonna talk about different baits in a second, but both of us run really long leaders on our spinning rods. So we'll have braid as backing, say 10 pound, 14 pound, something like that, but I run like a 14, even sometimes 20-foot long leader. I do that because I break off a lot and I don't wanna have to retie that leader all the time. Now, Myles, you told me a little different reason. Why do you have such a long leader?
Well, when I'm fishing current especially, if you've ever noticed, braid floats on top of the water. So when you're using these light baits, if there's current there and your braid is floating on top of the water, just imagine a bobber basically sitting on top of the water suspending your bait. It takes it forever to get down there. When you use fluorocarbon, it's going to cut through the water and sink. So you're getting down there faster and staying in contact with the bottom more. I see no difference in getting hook penetration with fluorocarbon and braid backing as I do pure fluorocarbon. I don't run pure fluorocarbon because it's expensive, but I will put, like you do, 20 foot, 25. And it started out of pure laziness, and then boom,
yeah, because it solves a problem.
That's it. Yep, that's it.
So last thing, and this is probably the juice of all of it, Myles, and you know what, I know what the first thing's going to be, and I'm going to hate it. Like, I'm going to tell you right off the bat, but tell me 3 or 4 rigs, whether you're fishing current or not, you're fishing these rock piles, maybe you're fishing pea gravel, maybe you're fishing big boulders. What are 3 or 4 baits that 9 times out of 10 throughout the year are going to be successful catching bass on rocks?
Carolina rig.
I hate you. I hate you.
There's no other bait in the world that keeps contact with the bottom like a Carolina rig. Yeah. People have this misconception that, you know, the weight's down here and the bait's floating up, and that it couldn't be further from the truth. Look at it in a pool. It's always in contact with the bottom. And then Ned rig, shaky head, you know, they go hand in hand, and a jig. But as a moving bait wise, you can never beat a crankbait when they're on or behind rocks. When they're suspended, of course, you know, you go to your jerk bait, spinner bait, but That pretty much covers everything generally from top to bottom. Rather, top water's good on rocks too.
Yeah, when they're up and suspended.
Absolutely.
And you know, the same thing applies. We talked about kind of like picking the right weight, you know, thinking about a Ned, going a little bit lighter, going heavier, so it's just ticking. The same thing applies with the crankbait. You don't want it grind and over dig the rocks, but at the same time, you don't want to just run over the top of them unless those fish are suspended. So you got to find your right little diver. And one of the keys is a lot of times guys will use a diver that dives like in 8 to 10 foot. So they'll use an 8 to 10 foot diver. No, that's a big no-no. You always want to go like 4 to 5 feet deeper on the crankbait that you're using in comparison to where you're fishing. As you get shallower, that margin thins. So in 2 to 3 foot, I'll use like a DT6. It dives to 6 feet, right? But I know it's going to get down and tick the bottom. And then the same applies as you get deeper. Say you're an 8, 10, 11 feet. I'll look at that 5XD, 6XD, it dives to 10 to 12. It dives to like 15, 16, 17. You're going to kind of over dive a bit because you want to get that bait down. But once again, the same thing holds true. You want to tick that stuff. And there's one other thing, and Myles, you mentioned it. You can actually control the depth of your crankbait too. Say it's maybe diving a little bit too deep, but you don't have a crankbait that's going to run at the correct depth. What do you do to control that depth?
Up your line size, or you can control. You've got 6 foot right here, dude. Or I do. I'm 5'11". Right. I've got 6 feet I can work with right here to control the depth. So I can hold my rod tip up at 12 o'clock and get it higher if I need to. I can kneel and reel if I need to get it down there. But line size and rod angle will definitely help you out a lot. I mean,
just like slight adjustments.
Slight. Yeah, no, it's something you can do on the run. You know what I mean, to where you ain't got to change line or vice versa. Like,
well, that's another trick with walking the bait over. With a crankbait, if you hit something and you raise your rod tip, she walks right over versus digging in.
Right. Yeah, we do that with traps too.
100%. Yeah. Some cool tips, right? I hope those will help you out. If you're ever fishing rock piles, whether it's pea gravel, big chunky boulder rocks, we run into all this stuff in Alabama and throughout the Southeast, and especially even up north, dude, for smallmouth and that. You guys saw some decent smallmouth. But everybody say bye to overheating bog. Are you so warm? Do you want to go eat dinner, bud? And Myles, as always, dude, had a blast. The information that you offer is awesome. Where can they find you if they want to get a trip or something?
On Facebook, Myles Murray Guide Service. Instagram, Myles_Murray07.
Myles is an absolute sick. He's been a mentor for me and taught me a lot out here, dude. So if you guys ever have any questions, not even looking for a guide trip, hit him up, dude. He's a super cool dude, super down to earth. Hit that like and subscribe button, though. I'm going to take this dog to go eat dinner. We will see you back out on the water or from the garage talking fishing. Tight lines.